6 o'clock.
It is.
Yes.
There's Jen.
Oh, yeah, it's 6. Right on the nose.
Okay, do we,
Do
are
it.
we ready to go?
Yes.
All right, and
Yes.
so let me just open this and then we'll the agenda. First off, this meeting is being held remotely. Welcome to the what are we tonight?
February 15th.
February 15th meeting is Scituate Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, temporarily amending certain provisions of the open meeting law. You are hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during the meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. And then this is a statement from the town of Scituate, our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Scituate Conservation Commission is committed to providing an environment of respect during our meetings. We ask that all members to interact in a polite manner, even when there's disagreement.
Hey, everybody.
We've,
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We value the participation of all our community, even the ones that just butt in, and want all participants, including marginalized,
Wasn't me.
minoritized communities to feel welcome and respected. We ask our committee members and all who participate to commit to those standards and support and respect the community. Good evening.
Hi.
So.
I make a motion, we accept the agenda with the add-ons.
And the add-ons are,
Amy mentioned a couple,
15 10th Avenue, C of C, and
order
One
of condition,
at
107.
7 Glades. We're signing that one.
okay. And then if we do move this right along with the continuances, I was hoping to spend a few minutes tonight just discussing our commission sort of overall agenda for the year. If we had just a few minutes to discuss that, and I mean, we could elaborate on that later.
Yeah.
So we have to start with 33 New Driftway and McDonald Terrace, and that's been,
It's
is that-
continued to March 20th.
so that's a motion.
Yep,
And do I have a second
I'll second that.
from Brendan? All in favor? You have Richard,
Yep.
Doug,
Yep.
Jen.
Yep.
Andy.
Yes.
Did I get everybody? Me, Frank, yes. Okay. 30 Manchester. Why don't we, and then after that, 181 Edward Foster, for anybody that's on, that's going to be continued to when?
to April 3rd.
Yeah, April 3rd.
Okay, we'll do that afterwards, but just if anybody
Yeah.
was, happened to be on.
And for 30 Manchester, I'm gonna call on Dana Altabello from Merrill Engineers. And so for this site, Frank and Commission, this site actually was filed with you guys quite a long time ago, and it has been being continued, along with not a lot of action. So the owner has, been putting a lot of different thoughts into what they, I guess it was delayed. They didn't quite know where we're refining their vision for the property. And the last time that you did hear it, it was paused. So it was a presentation on it. It was a raise rebuild, and you had some questions, and you just were going to go out and do a site visit and take a look at the site. And I know that Penny, Richard, Andy, Brendan, you guys went out there and you took a look at the site. So you're definitely familiar with the site. I think Frank, you are maybe familiar with the site as well. So maybe Doug is, maybe Jen is, I'm not sure. But anyways, so we will turn it over to Dana.
Hi, good
This
evening.
is a
everyone.
revised plan, by the way.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Dana Altabello.
I am here with the applicant, Linda Coker, as well as landscape architect Sean Papich. And Julie Johnson from Custom Home Designs will be joining us later. I think she had a conflict earlier on, but she was hoping to catch the end. This project, just to give you a brief overview, is located at number 30, which is on the southerly side of Manchester Street, I'm sorry, approximately 300 feet from the intersection of Central Avenue. And it directly abuts Hummerock Beach to the northeast, or the right side of the plan view as you have it now. The property consists of approximately 15,000 square feet. The portion of this portion of Hummerock is considered is considered a barrier beach or a coastal dune, and it also has coastal land subject to coastal storm flowage, with velocity zone elevation 16 as well as AE elevation 13 on the site as well. A large portion of the site is within the 100-foot buffer to coastal beach, which are kind of shown, the buffers are shown in kind of that purple color there, that go top to bottom of the screen. And the site is connected to town water and has an existing septic system, which is over near the existing gazebo on the site. As Amy had mentioned, the plans have been revised since the last hearing. These revisions have been proposed to address comments received from both the commission and the ZBA at recent hearings. The proposed storage shed has been connected to the existing structure, as you can see up at the top of the screen along Manchester Street in this area, near the open deck in the top right corner of the screen. This was to address ZBA comments. The driveway has also been reconfigured in this area. Approximately 2,650 square feet of yard area between the structure and the seawall will be converted from existing grass area to be planted with American beach grass to be more consistent with a dune environment that this area currently is adjacent to the beach. This will include the removal of existing concrete patios and other structures out there that are currently not compliant with a barrier beach in a dune environment. The existing shed and covered storage areas in the bottom left corner of the property, or behind the proposed garage, will be removed. I think that was a question at the last hearing. These will be replaced with raised planting beds and other native landscaping in this area. And then we've also proposed an elevated plunge pool to the south of the existing, the proposed structure. This pool will have a bottom elevation, which will be a minimum of 2 feet above existing grade to allow sand to migrate below it. And I think, if I understood correctly, that one of the other questions Josh Green had mentioned to me that the commission had was just regarding site coverage. Currently, the at-grade pavement and concrete covering the property totals approximately 2,794 square feet. Under the proposed conditions, we're proposing approximately 694 square feet. So that's a 75% reduction in at-grade pavement and concrete coverage on the site. If you look at the total site coverage, including dwellings, patios, decks, et cetera, the existing conditions, there's 5,740 square feet proposed, I mean existing, and then proposed is 5,462 square feet, which is a reduction of 278 square feet, or approximately 5% reduction over the existing. This, of course, does not take into account the conversion of existing non-conforming foundation. Currently, the structure is on a masonry block foundation with a slab basement floor. So that would not take into account the conversion of that masonry block foundation and slab floor to the proposed wooden pier foundation, which will allow sand to migrate below it and be more compliant with a dune environment. I guess if we look at that, then the non-compliant site coverage on the property will be reduced from 5,740 square feet to 694 square feet for basically just the garage. That's approximately an 88% reduction over the existing conditions. As required, just a summary, this project will provide substantial improvements over the existing conditions on the site. These improvements will include, as I mentioned, the removal of the existing block foundation and slab below that foundation or within that foundation, which totals, or if you look at that along with the concrete patio to the over near the seawall by Hummerock Beach, and there's a paved big conch area behind the proposed garage currently. That's a total of 2,740 square feet that will be removed from the site. There's also a reduction in the overall footprint. As I mentioned, the overall footprint will be reduced by 278 square feet, or by 5% over the existing conditions. And then, of course, there's a 2,650 square foot area between the proposed dwelling and the seawall, which kind of delineates Hummerock Beach, which will be converted from just an existing grass area to a planted American beach grass area, which would be more consistent with a dune environment. And lastly, all at-grade structures, as I mentioned, will be removed along with poured foundations within the Barrier Beach dune area. I think that kind of summarizes everything. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Amy, you want to go first?
Okay. Well, let's see. I guess my first comment is, thanks, Dana.
Sure.
I mean, this is a pretty substantial revision from what I remember the last revised plan looked like. Like, it seems to me that there's a lot more going on here than the first, rendition that we saw of this. Like, a lot seems to have either come onto this plan or changed or expanded, or there's just a lot going on. Kind of a lot to sink our teeth into. And one of the things is I'm actually kind of even having a little bit of difficulty dissecting what's going on as far as like existing to proposed. And it might be helpful to have existing conditions and proposed conditions on two separate plans. It's literally kind of like a beehive. Be helpful to be able to have that separated out. As this is a coastal dune, Barrier Beach, and the house does touch on the velocity zone. It's going to be an elevated structure. That's correct. We've got structural plans. Is that correct? I heard you right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Elevated on wood piles. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And yeah. So, generally we wouldn't see a ginormous increase of the existing structure. So I'd want to closely examine that. It's hard to see how much of an expansion we're really looking at here. Also, just other things that are kind of coming to mind here as I see the grades are changing a little bit. So wondering how much fill is coming on, maybe not so much, maybe a little bit in some areas, not so much in others. What's the status of other board approvals? I think I touched base with Board of Health. It doesn't look like they've seen anything since October. I think it's going to ZBA tomorrow. We just received the structurals late last week, landscaping plan today, so I haven't really looked at that. Let's see. The Wetlands Protection Act does have the coastal manual, speaks a lot to, increasing, even though it, Hummerock is not a pristine barrier beach, it's constructed barrier beach, does definitely speak to smart improvements on developed barrier beaches and altered areas, and how you would want to try to maintain the function of the coastal dunes and try to improve them to keep moving, so try to encourage the development to keep on the landward side, and try to keep those sediments moving and not altered or covered with impervious or other unnatural substances. So I'm not so sure about the, so much coverage with the like the bituminous concrete and stuff like that. But so what I'm thinking so far.
Okay. Do you want to respond to any one of those, Dana, or do you want to go through the rest of the commission members?
Sure, I tried to kind of lay out the coverages a little bit. I know it was kind of a lot in the presentation, but if you look at the coverage on the dune, I think that's really what the Wetlands Protection Act really is concerned with. Obviously, if there's something covering the dune, then it can't function the way it needs to with the littoral drift of sand and the movement and the migration and things like that. So as I mentioned, looking at the total picture as far as the existing conditions between the existing structures, which are, as I mentioned, a block foundation with a slab basement floor. There's several concrete walkways, concrete patios, bituminous paved areas, sheds, garages and sheds, concrete covered storage areas, things like that. If you look at the entirety of that, the total site coverage is 5,740 square feet. And under the proposed conditions, removing all of those concrete, specifically, or more importantly, some of that grade concrete patios up along the seawall connecting back to the existing house, within 50 feet of the existing beach. With the removal of all that, even if we consider the house as an object, even though it's being raised up and it's not at grade anymore, we're still reducing the site coverage by 278 square feet. So under the proposed conditions, it's 5,462 square feet. And that, as I mentioned, that includes the house being raised up and not, that's going to allow the dune to function properly. But even if we look at that, if we take the house into account, it's still a reduction over what's out there existing. I think, and the fill, I wouldn't expect very much fill at all. We're doing our best to meet existing grades. There is some, grading that's going to happen just as the nature of the new septic system and just kind of, looking at the site as a whole. But generally, it's going to be about the same elevation throughout. We'd be open to working with the commission if they felt some dune nourishment might be helpful in that American beach grass area towards the beach itself. But aside from that, we're trying to meet existing grade as best we can.
Okay.
I think that was kind of it. Unless I missed something, Amy.
Okay, well, let's go through with some of the members and see. Richard, do you want to field this
Sure.
one first? please?
Sure. I agree with Amy that, and not being an engineer at all, I'm looking at this and there is a lot going on. I've stared at it for a while. I think I figured out some of it, but I think it would be helpful to simplify it a little bit if we had an existing plan and a proposed plan side by side. All that said, if I understand this correctly, we're not seeing anything about the new proposed septic system. I presume there are details that have been sent in or will be sent in on that. And I'm not the one to discuss that. Doug or Frank probably are better at it, but I presume we do have plans. If I'm reading it correctly, most of that pavement that's out by the current garage and all that's being taken away, and what will be replaced is with pervious pavers. Am I understanding that correctly?
That would be something we could certainly consider within the garage. That's really the only place at grade would be the garage itself. Other than that, everything will be elevated on pilings.
Right. I thought I read the plan, or maybe it was the one I saw this afternoon, which was slightly different, that indicated there was all going to be pervious pavers going into the garage.
That I may be misspeaking. I apologize. I think it was. You're absolutely right. I think we had discussed pervious pavers in the garage. I
do like the idea of the beach grass in the front. Good luck with keeping the stones out of it. And I might have separately, and I don't think it would be a regulation, a suggestion that you have a couple of feet of just plain sand on the back side of the wall before you get to the beach grass, because rocks are constantly thrown up in that area. The old owners were out there all the time after a storm, having to hand pick the rocks out. I'm very familiar with it, as you might imagine. And the other question I had, I don't want to take everybody else's questions away. Along the street itself, am I reading that you're putting some sort of, I don't know what to say, not bricks, but like blocks along the side of the road, or am I misunderstanding that?
I think for the most part, we're just keeping, there may be some cobbles along the driveway, but other than that,
Okay.
actually, Sean Papich could probably speak to that a little bit more detailed. I think he has his hand up right now.
Oh, that would be helpful. Let me ask one other question and I'll go back to
Sure.
that and then I'll let everybody else have a speak. I'm not sure how the pool works. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I know what it was. And this actually isn't under our purview. A simple question. How high is this house? Is it going to be about the same high as the existing house?
I think it's going to be, it's going to meet, I'm not sure exactly how high the existing house is, but it is going to meet the zoning.
Basically a three-story
requirements
house.
behind-
currently.
Yeah, two and a half, I think is
All right.
where it lands, something like that, but it meets the zoning height requirements.
Okay. As I said, that's not really our purview, but I was curious.
Sure.
Yeah, I would like to know along the street and then I'll let my colleagues speak up.
I think Sean might be.
Does
muted.
Sean want to, I guess, answer that question and then we'll move on? Or maybe he's got something else he wants to add with regard to plantings or something. Sean's muted right now.
There he is.
John
There
should
he
be
is.
unmuted now.
There he is.
Probably not a mistake to mute. I don't blame you. The intent, yes, Richard, the intent on the edge of the street is inside the property line. The intent was to do some cobble, as Dana was discussing, or some granite planks in that area. So that was the intent along Manchester. Otherwise, what Richard was assessing there is right. The auto cord, all of that, generally the square footage is for permeable paving. And I don't know if you even have an opportunity, Dana, if it's easy to pull up the landscape plan in on your screen or not, or if it's going to be challenging to do that. It might even be able to, might be a little bit more clear. Hard to say, but the intent is for beach grass and for other natives to really be in the entirety of the property. So the intent is to have zero lawn. We're proposing zero lawn for the property, which I actually am super excited about because I don't know that there's any projects where that happens. So it's a perfect spot to do it this way. So obviously, as you're walking up and down Hummerock Beach, that it really should be that way. If you get the opportunity, if you can pull that up, Dana, I don't know if you can pull the landscape.
It's not allowing me to share my
No, it
screen.
won't.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't know.
I apologize.
No worries.
That might also help. It might be a little bit more cleaner without all the line work that's on the engineering.
Do we have a landscape plan? Not that we need it tonight, but do
There
we
is-
have?
Yeah, we do, Frank. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
I don't know if that's available to me, but if not, that's
I
okay.
usually bring my iPad to pull up the other information. I don't have it tonight, so.
Okay.
I do have it up on my screen if it's possible to transfer the ability to share the screen.
Yeah, we unfortunately we're
Can't do
not
that. Yeah.
doing,
Okay.
can't do that tonight, but.
Sure.
Thank you for all
Okay.
the answers and I'm good for now, Frank. I may come back later.
Okay. So I see Julie has her hand up and we still have to work through members. Is there something that Julie wanted to answer? Or, okay, maybe you want to let her in, Amy or Jen?
Sure, Julie, you're in.
Thank you, Amy. I just wanted to answer quickly. I'm sorry I'm late to the meeting. But the overall height, the highest ridge is 37.8 from average grade, and the mid roof is 30'6". So it really is kind of in that 2.5-story house.
Thank you.
Thank you. Doug, do you want to?
Sure. I'll throw some words around the room and make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. I like the plan, actually. The shaded area, the brown kind of shade, that's the footprint of the new structures. And I can see ghosted underneath there, the old one, but Danny said that there's about a 30% increase in the building coverage itself. But you said overall, there's a decrease in impervious. Is that correct?
Excuse me, yes, that's correct. The overall coverage on the site between the buildings and the walkways, pavement, et cetera, it's a reduction of 5% or 278 square feet.
Yeah, so I think that's a plus, and the septic system is just a standard, it's trenches. So
That's correct.
subsurface trenches, so there's nothing fancy about that, it's all gravity.
Yeah.
And there's not much grading going on. So yeah, there's a lot of lines in there, I get that, there's a lot of text with arrows and, but there's a lot of existing stuff underneath. But there's several things being removed and then this adding in there. To me, it looks like overall it's a good project, and it's with it elevated the way it's required to be, it's going to be a better situation than what's there now. So I'm actually I think I'm kind of good with it. I don't have a lot to say.
Okay. Penny?
Yeah, there is a lot going on. It's a much bigger house, but as long as the big thing is to elevate it, and I elevate it on pilings, and then the dune can move wherever it wants to go and clean it up every storm and push it back. I don't really have an issue at all that I can see. Hip hip hooray, Frank. Moving
Okay.
on.
Wow.
Andy?
Yeah, I think a lot of my questions are covered, echoing the point of, if we could clean it up a little bit. Like, I don't doubt the calculations at all, but I'm looking at this plan and thinking, like, how could this be a reduction? So if we could just kind of see that in a clearer way, that would certainly help. And if I'm hearing the situation correctly, this is in development. I think there's a granite patio down by the water in the planting plan that's not on the engineering plan. So I don't know if there's some things that are sort of being added, just details to cover. But I think for me, it's more like it would be just a little easier to check the stuff and review it with a cleaner plan, a little simpler layout. But I don't have really big questions beyond that.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, so I guess, I don't know, maybe I missed it. So on the, I don't know, the beach side here, there's a concrete patio and a walk. Is that being removed?
Yeah,
Oh.
that's correct.
It is? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is.
Yes, yep. And that will be replaced with an elevated deck and walkway.
Oh.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference, sir.
Yeah, because it doesn't say like to be removed.
Yeah, it
so-
doesn't say remove. Yeah, I thought you were putting it in.
And then I
Yeah.
can't seem to, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say we probably should have added the to be removed. And we do have that hatch which kind of denotes the American beach grass within it.
Yeah, but I just,
Yeah, we
Very
can certainly
good.
clarify that though.
that's good.
And then the other question I had was I don't seem to be able to find the landscape plans, but that's all right. You have your proposed wall and fence, which it looks like it goes from that garage all the way around. How high is that wall? Do
That,
we want a wall?
yeah, that wall's a 24-inch height wall with about a 30-inch picket fence on top. So it's just at the edge. It's coming off of the garage and going to the essentially going to the north with an opening in it, kind of in the middle of the auto court there. And so it's an opening so you could take a mower through there, or do whatever. But we won't have mowers, will we? So I guess you come in just service vehicles coming in through there. And really the intent is to have all of our traffic coming off of Manchester Street with really not much of anything coming down that little lane.
Okay.
It's about a 24-inch height wall.
All right. Yeah, I guess that was my only other question, I guess.
Mhm.
Do we want a wall?
No.
Could be an issue.
Yeah. That's what I thought. So anyway,
Okay.
that's really the only questions I had.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you guys should be taking a look at the CZM coastal manual for interpreting the performance standards under 310 CMR 10.28. New development and redevelopment for coastal dunes. And just reviewing those. And it gives examples.
You done, Brendan?
Brendan's.
I'm
done.
sorry, I'm all done. I have
Um,
concluded my questions.
Do
Good
we
call,
have-
Brendan.
Do we have anybody in the audience for
What
this?
about Jennifer?
Is Jen on yet? I thought she had some technical difficulties.
Oh,
No, I'm here.
Oh, sorry.
Technical difficulties ended at 5:50.
there you go.
We'll keep it
Alright.
clean. No, I echo a lot of what people have said before. As I think it's definitely an improvement, and it's great to see all the kind of concrete being removed and the attention to or the openness to more pervious pavers. I know that there is some regulations that Amy's calling out that I'm not hyper familiar with, but it definitely sounds like a great plan moving forward, a great plan to work on.
Thank you. And do we have anybody in the audience? Anybody? Any neighbors, butters, anybody?
Seeing none.
Okay.
Linda Coker's got her hands up.
Linda?
She's muted right now.
Linda, when you get unmuted, maybe just state your name and address, please.
Hi, Linda Coker, currently at 1880 Virginia Ave in McLean, Virginia. We also own the house next door at 123 Hummerock Beach Road. And I just wanted to just clarify a couple of things, regarding what, Amy was talking about. And just going back to, there is not going to be any pervious materials on this property except inside of that garage. That's it. That's all we're asking for. Everything else we're going to work on, and we're going to make it either plantings or impervious, pavers or pervious pavers. Sorry. I think I'm saying the opposite. Sorry.
I do it all the time.
Nothing. Yeah. So, and this is what we did at 123 too, is we took out massive amounts of walkways and concrete, and we just left it, the sand. And yes, Frank, the rocks do come over. But every year this was a lawn, and it was maintained with irrigation, fertilizer, blowers, picking off the rocks every year. And I said, we are not doing that. We're going to go natural and, as possible. So no impervious materials anywhere except for, the base of the garage. So, and the other thing is along the easement, we are trying to do a decorative fence with plantings on the other side. There is currently a very tall, not very attractive fence there the entire way. So we're just replacing, we're not adding something there. We're just trying to make it look nicer. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's all I needed to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? So a couple of questions that I had were answered when I saw the concrete patio, but then I see the plantings over the top. So that proposed deck and walkway is all going to be wood. And that's, it is a little confusing. So there's a set of steps that must come down from the house that go to the deck and then a walkway that takes you out to the beach. Is that
Out to the wall.
out to the wall? And then the plunge pool is gonna be set on piers, so a beam or something like that. But the bottom of it is lower than the house, so it has clearance similar to what we might look for with a garage or some sort of thing.
Yeah, that's correct.
And this garage is a concrete floor. It's not an elevated garage with a wood floor. Is that, am I right?
I believe we're actually gonna have pervious pavers, but similar.
But
I think
it's
the intent is to be concrete, to be a solid concrete floor at grade.
it's a poured wall, a poured concrete
Pour
foundation.
concrete for the, just for the garage floor. Isn't that correct, Linda? I think so.
It's not on piles.
No, correct. That's correct.
So it's got a poured concrete foundation and then inside the garage
With flood vents.
with flood vents. Okay. Just trying to be sure I got it right. Okay.
There's an Al Martinetti raising hand.
Just give me 1 second here.
Let Frank finish.
I don't want to miss anybody. All right, well, let's see, can we let unmute Al? And again, you want to just state your name and address?
Al, you're on.
Yes, Al Martinetti, 24 Manchester Street, next door neighbor. We have no objections to this plan, just to let you know.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thank
Yeah,
you very
thanks.
much. All right, Amy, just, you had sort of a list of items. Is that all that it looks like these, that they would need to bring to us at the next, if we're going to continue this? Can we give them any more direction or does anybody?
Well, can we start with the two different plans and see if we identify anything that pops out once we get those two? But I think that you guys brought up some really good questions, and Dana probably has a really good list. Dana, do you have a good list?
I think I guess that if we need more information, I think between Sean, myself, and Julie, I thought we had kind of addressed everything. But if there's obviously the plan needs to be, the
Revised.
second sheet. Yeah, we can do that.
And you need to get Board of Health clearance and go see what happens to ZBA.
Sure.
And it needs, the plan needs to be cleaned up, and we need to be able to look at it on a couple different sheets so that we can decipher it better.
Yeah.
And then like
Beyond that, I
the
didn't have a lot,
AE
though.
13 line going through the middle of the plan, that's inaccurate. I mean, you need to clean it up for inaccuracies, things like that.
That's inaccurate, Amy?
Well, AE 13 applies for the whole site. The entire property's in AE 13.
So
Is
you
that,
did,
is that a base flood elevation, Dana?
Yes, I believe it is. So I believe it's AE 13 up to the 16, and then I think we are. I thought we were elevated above 13 at that point. Yeah, so where as you go to the from the 16 over to the 13,
On
it's
the
above
right
it.
hand side, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's the left-hand side of the site where the septic and the garage are within the flood zone again. So there's a little bit of a break there, if I understand correctly.
So-
Would the AE zone follow a contour then?
I believe that's what's doing right there. That's the 13 contour.
Hmm.
And then as you can see to the right plan side, it's 14 up to 15.
Oh, I see. It goes up from
Right.
left to right towards the beach.
Yeah.
Ah,
Towards the
that's
beach,
correct.
it's higher, yes.
that's why I'm
It's
getting.
not like you drop out of flood zone though. You know, you're still in flood zone. You're in the entire barrier beach is in land subject to coastal storm flowage.
Of course.
So it's not significant to anything.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, the velocity zone shown graphically, and then the limit of the the elevation 13 is shown accurately.
Okay, but it's not significant to like,
Amy, you're saying that the whole
the whole site's land
whole
subject to coastal
piece-
storm flowage. But
from the velocity zone back.
yeah, from velocity zone west, it's land subject AE. East, it's velocity zone. But
Okay.
but triggering that requirement because it's in coastal dune to elevate.
Right.
And so coastal dune drives the significance of the site. So,
Right.
in Barrier Beach.
Does it matter that the deck, some of the deck is in the velocity zone? Am I right?
It's up on filings.
Mm-hmm.
Does that have any significance?
No,
It's all significant, yes.
Well, I mean, in terms of the elevation of the house, is the house being elevated to the velocity zone or is it to the AE zone? I'm looking at the top of the foundation piles. Well, yeah, I guess you are.
Yeah,
Because your
Yep.
piles, the top of your piles are at 18. So
that's correct. Yep.
got it.
Yeah.
So our lowest member is going to be around 18 or whatever, which is 2 feet above
The-
the velocity zone.
I got it.
Yeah, and the condition there is just gonna be that it's consistent with Mass State Building Code.
Amy, if we conditioned, I know we had this issue come up elsewhere with the garage and whether we thought the garage should be on piers with a wood floor as opposed to a concrete floor obstructing any water
Mm-hmm.
migration. I can't remember how we handled that in a couple of places.
Yeah, I talked to the building commissioner about this property today, met with him and I think it appears that this is okay, the way it's drawn.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know, I just
oh,
was really confused the way there's like a box on this plan. It almost looks like there's a foundation. Does anybody else feel that way?
foundation where?
Well, like in the brown area, there's there's an outline.
So
So
that's the, if I may, Mr. Chairman, that's the limit of the house that's enclosed in, and then outside of that is a covered porch. So that's just kind of, the brown is showing the roof outside of that for the porch
Oh,
itself.
that's on the house. I thought she was
And then-
talking about the garage.
But the thing that looks like it's a retaining wall outline, is that an actual wall?
I'm not, no, so I think it's just showing the interior wall versus the exterior wall. So there's some, it's going to be 6 or 8 inches thick with.
See, that's why I want 2 different plans. That's why I just,
so I get what you're saying that, so, but really if it's when you consider all the surfaces to be covered, are you including the porch roofs?
Yes.
Okay. So what they're showing in that outline is the living space, and then the area outside of that is either a deck or a covered porch.
right, so you're outlining what you, like the area that you calculated to come up with your impervious calc.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
okay.
brown is the.
What's
building.
what's the area that's kind of like a lighter beige as opposed to the brown? Is it covered deck and then open deck?
That's the open
Yeah.
deck. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay,
So there's no roof over that. That's just, we just wanted to show it a little bit differently.
okay. So then where that detail is, I think what Amy's maybe referring to, one of the places it shows like a wall sort of between the proposed storage shed and or between the D box and the house. Is that a retaining wall?
There's an existing wall there that I believe will be removed. Sean may have some additional information to add on that, but I believe the existing wall is coming out.
Yeah, well, we were going to still, our intention was to replace the existing wall with planter walls that would still be sitting down substantially lower than, say, the deck area, stepping down in for a planter right in front of that front porch, essentially. So the porch, call it on the west side of the house. That's not necessarily illustrated here. It was on our landscape plan. There's some walls that are going to be right about in that same location of the existing wall. And then on the other side also.
So the landscape plan is going to be part of your submittal, right?
It is. And
That's correct.
you've got one from earlier today, and for the next piece, it'll be finalized and
Okay.
essentially, yeah.
So,
Frank,
so
well-
Sean, is the one that we received today just a draft? You're gonna revise that one?
But I didn't know how far that it needed to be taken in terms of detail. What we have is a plant list, and all the information on it reads a little more like the landscape plan than the engineer's plan. But we didn't have quantities listed quite yet. We weren't sure if you wanted that yet, or if it was, if we wanted to see the quantities of the plants in order for it to be approved. So it sounds like you're pushing to continue anyway. So we'll just tidy it up for the next time. It really wasn't intended to be a draft per se. It's enough to go to ZBA, I think, for tomorrow night, without some of the quantities included, I guess I would say.
So I just looking a little bit harder. So when you talk about these planting boxes or
Yeah.
plantings, what are they made of, Sean? How
So
does
those
that-
those intention are to be stone, to be a stone with weep holes in them, drainage behind them. So the intention would be for those to be essentially a raised box that we would be used to kind of break down the space and the height of that porch. But you can speak to whether or not you want something like that or not want something like that in this AE zone.
Where the leaching field is, it looks to me like there's sort of a wall that has it's like an upside down L or something. Is that remaining, or is that?
There'd be a different one is what it would be, Frank. It's a separate, a different layout for the wall, but it's the same kind of idea, same raised planter wall that's there now.
So we are going to have a series of walls, whether they're planters or whatever, but there's a series of stone walls that are sort of running north to south.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the proposal,
Okay.
right at the stairs as they come down.
And then there's an area that has like a raised garden where the shed is that's going to be removed.
Yep.
Is that?
That was, yeah, those were going to be, say, raised cedar beds, just like you'd have with a crushed stone pathway around them. So something that's permeable with just some raised cedar beds for vegetables and things of that nature.
See.
So I guess just as a general comment,
Mhm.
Anything that is gonna impede in the dunes' ability to move, shift, or migrate naturally could be problematic.
Mhm.
So we want to try to, if we can, like, well, I don't know, maybe possibly even, Sean, refer to the Storm Smart Beach Barrier Beach guidelines.
Yep.
Look for opportunities to improve the function of the altered area. If possible, remove impervious, not extensively expand the structure, and add native, as much native vegetation as you can, but,
Yeah.
Realizing that additional shading is not so good for the dune because it destabilizes it, additionally, but you're gonna wanna not so much, like, I'm trying to picture like a structure of this size completely surrounded by lattice too, isn't gonna be so good for this site.
Yeah, I don't think that's, yeah, I don't
Strip
think-
the
yeah,
sand.
agree. I don't think that's the intent. I think the intent is almost anything that's not done with permeable paving is planted with a native plant on the site, wall to wall here, basically, property line to property line. So in terms of that, hopefully that's not an issue with our plan. That even though we don't have it up on the screen, this is 100% planted. Question would be whether or not the raised planters are something that you completely object to, or if you say, can we have some amount of those raised planters? Certainly the raised garden bed, the cedar ones over there where we're taking out a
Shouldn't be a
shed,
problem.
that
Yeah.
shouldn't be a problem. But
No,
the ones we have at the face, kind of as an aesthetic piece at the face of the house as you're coming in the driveway, to kind of mimic a little bit of what was there at one point, even if we're removing the house.
those probably
itself.
will be okay too. It's like the long stretch of a linear wall would
Mhm.
be something that would probably impact the function of the dune.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
So maybe
to-
some
to
of
it-
those.
Would be not something they'd want to see. You know what I mean? You really want to try to
Understood.
see, because it's a big open area right now, right? To a lot of extent. So to the extent we can keep it flowing,
Mhm.
you know, as much as possible would be probably a good idea. I mean, it looks like it's a terrific property. Linda, you got a great site. I'm jealous. Oh, and Linda wants to speak. Okay, hold on. You're on.
Hi, Amy. Amy, have you actually been to the site yet?
I actually have. Yes, I
Okay.
have a couple
So
times.
okay, so when you were just describing that there was nothing there really impeding, that whole fence runs, the whole back of the property. And did you notice all of the internal fencing and all of the concrete and asphalt that is there? And but I'm glad you've been there. So that's really was just my comment, because I think when you walk this property and you start adding up all of the paving that's there and the long fence and everything, that what we're proposing so that we can bring in a lot more native plants and, vegetable garden, that kind of thing. It's very different than what's there right now.
Yeah, so it should be a great win.
Okay.
It sounds like it's very exciting. I'm excited for you. Really.
I'm sorry, and I'll talk with Sean and Dana later. I'm still not quite clear on what you're requesting. We did the landscaping plan, which is beautiful, but I guess there's technical difficulties and you guys can't view it right now. Is that what I'm?
Correct.
I think it's just that there's a lot going on this one single sheet. So we
Okay.
want it maybe on two different sheets so we can get a clearer view on what is proposed and what's already on the site versus what's proposed.
Okay. All right, and Dana's not able to clear that. I'm just trying to avoid yet another continuance.
So I
We're
think
dealing with 4 different committees and boards right now, but I thought that Dana was clarifying, but okay.
I think a lot of this, typically the commission likes to get some information, with some time prior to the meeting. I think it's my understanding we got a lot of this today.
It was short notice, you're right.
So it didn't really get disseminated I haven't had a chance to take a look at it. And I don't think some of the other members really have a chance to look at it either, but it's great that you folks are on to explain a lot of this because it's going to make it simpler as we look at those plans. And I think what's important as we weigh this out, to your point, you're removing a lot of impediments and things that we would impervious areas we'd like to see removed. So there's a good number of improvements on the site. The opposite side is that there's a much larger structure. There's a garage and a couple other things. So even though the structure is elevated, it's still a fairly large footprint. So
well, we did have a garage before. We had a two-car garage before.
Right. So
that's not new. It's just there's not going to be any asphalt there.
Right. So what the commission will look at is that there's rules and regulations for that space. And then there's also the improvements that you're making by removing a lot of undesirable things that are on the site, for lack of a better word, or things that wouldn't be conditioned today. So you're doing a lot of those things, and that's positive. And then there's just some pieces that we look at as they pertain to the regulations and say, are these things that we can condition on this project? If that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. So what do we need for time to, I'm sorry, you have Board of Health and ZBA coming up shortly?
ZBA is tomorrow, and Board of Health, I can check in with them. I don't think there's a lot to do there.
Okay.
Frank?
Yes, Richard.
I just wanted to stick in one thing. Well, two things, actually. If I am understanding the proposed storage shed and all that, that's basically where the old greenhouse is now. Am I understanding? Okay. The only thing I can see, this is just me, as I pass the place virtually 4 or 5 times a week. The only thing I can see is what Andy brought up, and that's the wall on the west side of the lot being 2 feet high. I think that's the only thing I heard that I can see might be something that really we have to talk seriously about, because we normally don't allow that. The fence is different from a solid wall. And I understood what Linda was talking about the old fence back there. The fence, I don't have a problem with. It's porous. But the concrete wall or that thing could be an issue that we need to talk about. Other than that, and just so that all of these people understand, you and Doug are the only ones that are engineers. The rest of us have trouble dealing with a complicated, I'll speak for myself, I won't say everybody else. Trouble dealing with a complicated plan like this, which is why it would really be helpful to separate them out.
Sure.
I'm done.
All right. So what do you think for
How
time
far out?
to continue this?
March 6th is full.
March 20th.
So go with the 20th.
All right, can we
20th
get,
or the 3rd.
well,
Dana.
let's, if it goes to the 20th, but we're gonna have, you guys have got some input. If you could kind of fuss with whatever you're gonna do on these plans and then get it back to us as soon as possible so that members can take a look at it. If they have any questions, we can fire some questions back to you. So,
Yeah, I mean, Dana, if you can get me those 2 separate plans, I can maybe highlight something that jumps out to me that would jump out at the commissioners.
Sure. I mean, that's something we could probably get you next week.
That would be great.
That will be helpful.
You want to take the 20th?
I think we can handle whatever the first one is. That sounded like was that the 20th or the?
March, yep,
Okay. Yeah, that should work.
perfect.
Can I make a motion, Frank?
yes, please.
I make a motion to continue 30 Manchester to March 20th.
I'll second it.
That's the second from Richard. So all in favor, Doug,
Yes.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay. Great. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
181 Edward Foster Road.
Continue that. Make a motion to continue that to April 3rd.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that. Brendan.
Second from Brendan. All in favor? Richard,
Yep.
Doug,
Yep.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you. Okay. Amy, or what do we have next?
Certificates of compliance.
Why didn't I just say Penny? What do we have next?
Oh, I know.
All right, we have a CFC for 131 Glades. Oh, this is the one that I think it was on last time too for a septic system, but now it's back on and it's actually for the older one, which was the, oh my God, it was the foundation that was before I got here. So it was like in 2016. And there was a wall, but it had a sticky, don't issue it. So it never got issued, but it was filed for, but it was part of the plan set. And you guys didn't issue it back in 16, but we're issuing it because it was part of the plan set. I don't know what you want to do with it, but we're issuing it, so. But that's why the number's 2485. Got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Got it.
Right. All
And then
right,
we have another one that's an oldie but a goodie, 15 10th Ave. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah.
Shingler rust.
Yeah.
That's a complicated one. I don't know. It was some kind of a, I don't want to even talk about it, but anyways, it didn't involve our commission really, but we're issuing that one too.
Okay.
okay,
So those are good. And we have some orders to.
yeah,
vote.
Those
I
are
make-
orders from last meeting. Yep.
I make a motion, we accept the orders of condition as written for 27 Pine View Drive, 327 Central Ave, 34 Christopher Lane, 58 Egypt Beach Road, 107 Glades Road, and I think there's another one up there, but I can't read it.
107 Glades. You got
Oh,
that?
Yeah, but right after Pine View, there's a 6, and I don't know what
Well,
that.
that's just the
Oh,
code.
that's just the number. Okay. Yeah. Those orders of condition.
Get another pair of glasses, Penny. You've only got one on tonight.
I know. I need to go get the other ones.
Right.
Somebody want to second that?
So we got a motion. Oh, we have a second.
I'll second that.
Brendan, all in favor? Richard,
Yep.
Doug,
Yep.
Jen?
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Thank you.
We have a bit of a reprieve in meetings now, folks.
So you're gonna send us with a whole bunch of homework?
A whole 2.5 weeks or something like that. That's Jen's idea.
Good work, Jen.
Well, Jen's gonna have a well-deserved vacation, so.
Yes. Very well deserved.
So. We have anything else? Is there any other business?
No.
Okay. Would you guys indulge me for 5 minutes to just go through a list of things that we have going on?
The only question I have, Frank, is will it really be 5 minutes?
I have to go to the bathroom.
I'll set a timer.
Here we go.
So should I wait?
Go.
No, I go ahead.
All right. So first off, I would say that we passed around some pictures because Andy hadn't been on for a couple of meetings, and the fencing is up at Appleton and it looks fantastic.
Yep.
And I think the next part, Andy, is just getting some farmers in their areas. I don't know how many folks have signed up, or do we need to get the word out, or what's the best thing?
I think we do need to get word out. I'm not sure if it's been posted on the town site or not. So I think we could use a little more advertising.
Is that something that's hard to put on our site or the town site? Penny, who gets the information out at Teak Sherman?
Sustainable Scituate, and they used to use the Mariner, but now we don't really have a Mariner anymore.
Frank, do you mean the community gardeners?
Yes.
Oh, that I got. It's
Okay.
the commercial growers to
Oh, yeah.
make his
no,
field. That's the harder part.
Okay.
So what would be a good way to,
I'd go on the town website and say, come one, come all, sign up.
well, this is for commercial use. Just wondering if there's any kind of an association or
Oh, I have
any
no idea.
publication or anything for,
Commercial, I don't know.
Is it commercial use inside the fence?
no,
No,
No?
it can't be.
Okay.
right?
Outside.
So I know that there's a couple of people that was Ken Schwartz, and I'm not sure who else, but I don't know if we'd had any other.
Yeah, I don't think we've had any official applicants yet.
Right.
So we'll work on that. I mean, there is still no water, which I know is a barrier.
Right. All right, so We'll think about that a little bit and see. And then the accessible, how much money do you remember you have left for that? To build some raised beds or something?
I don't know the number off the top of my head. We were under budget on the fence, so we got room. So I gotta get quotes on the beds themselves we can order and assemble. I just need to get quotes on the stone, stone dust and path.
Okay. Right, great.
Yeah, there's a meeting on the 28th at the library for the community garden part.
Oh, cool. Is that
The community garden.
Community garden, yep.
Yeah.
on?
So you doing the same thing that we do, that they give something to the food pantry every week?
That is the plan, yeah. I mean, the whole thing's been on and off with so I'm hoping we get the group together that's interested on the 28th and kind of set those plans. But yeah, the idea is that there'll be a separate area for the food pantry.
What time is that, Andy?
Let me just confirm it. It's
If you don't have it now, you can send it out.
okay. Yeah, I'll find it.
Okay.
Andy, what we
Yep.
did at Teak Sherman was everybody gave some of their garden every week to the food pantry. It wasn't just one area, and we did have a few areas for the food pantry, but everybody, it was like pay it forward, you know?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
but
We were going with well, part of the idea was that John wanted to have an educational area.
yeah.
And so the idea was to have everybody who has a plot has to put time into the shared area for the food pantry, but then it would also be there that like if kids came, they could go in there because no one wants the kids in their own plot. So it was kind of balancing the two ideas, but we have flexibility on that too. So
No, you've got John Belver and Ken Swartz and yourself. You'll get it all squared away.
yeah.
Okay, great.
How many farmers did you get?
Gardeners.
Farmers, yeah.
No, well, the gardeners are inside the fence and the farmers are outside the fence,
Oh,
right?
Yes.
so how many farmers did you get?
Farmers,
Not yet.
I don't think we've had any, right? Because those are coming to the commission in email.
Oh, okay.
So
How many
I don't-
gardeners do you have?
7.
Wow.
Oh,
You'll get more this year because of the fencing.
Okay, exactly. We actually have
Definitely.
the fence
You'll-
but
department.
you still have no
Right up.
water though.
They have to bring their own water.
Well, they have some tanks up there, Frank, too.
Yep. And the good news is, I think John and Ken's approach to some of this, they're kind of encourage folks to do their gardening a little bit differently rather than tilling the whole lot and trying to manage the moisture and all that. I think
Yep. Yeah. And now that we have the fence figured out, I guess the next step is to maybe the demand on well drillers has calmed down in the last couple. We'll find somebody who can put one in.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my eye open, but so far. Okay. Oh, that's awesome. That's really great. To follow up on some of those projects, we've just got a few more signs to go up. There was a couple of glitches in a couple of signs. Ernie made up new signs and just got to reframe a couple of things, and those should be pretty well squared away. And then Brendan's tried to explain to me how the URL or
QR codes.
whatever they are.
Oh, Marla's been asking about it. Frank, just so you know, we've had like little bird chirping in the ear of the conservation office.
Sure.
As the string goes up, it chirp, URL.
All right,
So do we want QR codes or?
I don't think it's a bad thing,
I
but I
can't
also
comment.
don't want to manage it.
I don't
Yeah.
know
It's
how
a sticker.
complicated it is or how much time it's going to take or what we have to do to get it done. That part is not in my,
I think the hardest part will be putting it on a sticker.
okay.
A sticker?
I get what he's saying.
You know, to put it on, you know.
Someone's actually got to we got to have stickers made. And then the stickers go out. And how about though adapting the software to our, that's just a black hole to me. I just don't know.
There's no
More than
software.
a black hole to me.
So
Easy.
I think one of the big questions is, do you want one QR code for all that just brings you to a page where people can select where they are and download
Yeah.
the PDF, or do we want a QR code that brings you right to the PDF for the map?
I would say one, just to keep life easy.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I'm with you, Frank. I don't know what they're talking about.
One's good because then if you add a new map, you can just add it to that site and not have to make a new.
Right. And not have
So
to make another
Richard,
code.
Henny and I are clueless.
Well, we're the
I
old
like
people.
paper maps.
So I'm gonna leave this totally up to somebody else.
Use the young ones, please.
Doug's not saying a word.
This is not technical enough for Doug.
All right. All right. Jen is, Smith is not shaking her head no, so I'm assuming that between us, we can figure something out. If it means just going out and pasting plastic.
That's all it is. We
All
just
right.
have to get the QR code, get a laminator, which we have, and then somebody just needs to
Okay.
We're gonna
laminate
print
it
it
on the
sign,
red
yeah.
sign.
Even
Alright,
I
and-
could do that.
And I'm,
Nobody peels it off.
and I'm assuming that we're not gonna
No,
have to
we're gonna
worry.
give, once we get them, we're gonna give them to Marla and she's, I mean, to somebody, and then they're gonna, somebody like Marla. who
Trace
might
the,
volunteer.
Trails folks can go around
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
okay.
She's the author.
And we're
So-
not worried about people sabotaging them and putting other stickers on
Let's
top of
hope.
our stickers.
Let's hope.
I don't know.
Yeah, we have wonderful
That-
volunteers who do it, so it's great.
So
That's-
do we know about what size you want? And I'll just I'll make one and send it out.
Like
It's
2 by 2,
like that big?
yeah, 2
Yeah.
by 2 by 2,
2 by 2? Okay.
something you
So-
can't,
That's accurate. How do you like
Something
that,
that
Doug?
doesn't,
About
like-
that big?
Yeah, it's just like,
something that doesn't
Yeah,
annoy
something
you
like
when
that.
you walk by it, but something that you can't like, you're not gonna be like, is
This
that
big,
it?
it holds my whole head.
That's 2 by 2.
Something
That's
that
too big
covers my
then. It's
face?
littler than that,
Something
1
that
by
covers
1.
my whole face that
Oh,
big.
2 by 2.
okay.
Is
All
this
right.
2 by 2? Is that a 2 by 2?
2 by 2.
Yes, yeah.
That's too big.
A Post-it. No?
Post
Smaller
it.
than that. Yeah,
A
post it.
That would be the right size.
Yeah, that's the right size. This is the right size.
Yeah, there you go.
Wait.
That size.
Hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Is
That's
that
it.
the same size? No.
One
All
and a
right.
half.
Well, that was it.
One and a
I
half
had
by
a
one and
couple
a
other
half.
things I'd like to discuss if we
Okay.
can get through this. All right. So,
Moving on, Frank.
all right, so we're
Yeah,
gonna
we'll
work
get out
with
the
that.
engineer's ruler.
The bids package went out or get advertised, and it's getting advertised again for the Damon, finishing up Damon and the picnic areas. So let's cross our fingers. The prices haven't tripled again. And we can move on with finishing that up, but that's moving at least a good ways
Forward.
forward. Yep. It seems like maybe a couple of us should get together with the folks at Border Street that were instrumental in acquiring that property and figure out where the next step is. And I'm gonna see if I can set something up with them. And then I think I'd like to reach out to you folks and see if anybody's available. If we could set up a time
Mhm.
for maybe a couple of us to, we really haven't done a lot with that. And I think it's important that we move along in that area. They've got some ideas. We got some things we should talk about. So I'll see if I can get something organized that we can get a few of us involved in that.
Get some money.
Well, there's a bunch of things that we'll have to figure out for there, so I think it'd just be good to get together and start to move that along. In addition to that project, though, we still have to circle back to things like blank right now, the Driftway Park. because we started to do some more work over there and then sort of got shifted onto other things with COVID and whatnot. And I think we have to come back to that. Penny, where did we leave off with the bridges going over the over that dike?
Kind of. It got pushed by the wayside.
I think we're going to try to come up with a budget for engineering.
Well, we did. I need to go talk to Sean. That kind of got lost in the shuffle of all the Mordecai link and this and that, and an RFP was done. And it kind of got just.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get some things lined up because I'm going to put this list together and then ask Jen after she gets back if we can put something together. We can.
Yeah, well, I need to go talk to Sean. Let me go talk to Sean. And because I just kind of forgot about it.
But it's
Badly.
well, no, but it's sort of a threefold thing. We have that area. We've talked about sort of improving where the parking and things like that are. And then if we're gonna address more of the picnic area and we also have the viewing platform, we had that repaired.
Yeah,
Yes, Frank, we're gonna want to talk to the planning board on that project
Right.
because the 7 new driftway mitigation that they got on that and other projects that they've been taking money from on driftway, they've got funds going towards driftway and that pier.
We started that discussion with them a while back when the
Yeah,
planning
so we
board,
want to continue project conversations with them.
so because of the density there, the developer has to show public good in the general area, and they've agreed that they would help us fund projects at Driftway Park.
Well, and
So-
we've actually got funds to actually fix the pier.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's just, I'm just kind of pointing some things out that need some attention. So I'd say those are the bigger projects. Smaller ones, we did mention to the select board that we would like to see some money for maintenance and roadways. If we don't get it, we've got to figure out how to get some simple money.
Appleton is terrible, terrible.
Yeah.
I took my car in there the other day and I almost broke.
So we may be able to get some additional road millings again this spring that we could use to repair some of the road, but that's one of the things that we really have to start paying attention to is a couple of these access areas.
Well, it's funny, Frank, it's at the beginning of Appleton Road where it's the worst. When you get in deeper, it's not that bad.
Well, that's
but-
because the area that when they had to
Oh, because
excavate
the wetlands?
and go
Yeah,
through the wetlands, so that was sort of
Yeah.
the softer
exactly. Okay, thank you.
area, but
Yeah, no, you're right, you're right.
it could be fixed up.
Yeah, no, it has to be before somebody's car gets wrecked.
Our town forests need attention. We sort of let those are off of our radar screen, but neither one of them are looking very healthy. So we've got to figure out sort of a plan
Do you have more junk going in there?
for some of that. What's that?
More
Yeah, the
junk, dump stuff?
one at Maple Street has some more dumping.
What is wrong with people?
And then the one across from the safety building just has loads of trees that came down. So just something that I just,
Oh, can I ask you a question, Frank?
Mhm.
On the trees that are down, I thought you said it was better to leave the down trees and let them rot.
well,
Healthier for the environment. Am I mistaken or?
well, in some places aesthetically, it would just look better to
I
get some
understand
things cleaned up.
aesthetically, but I'm,
And then the other part of it is, this is something that will further what we've been talking about, is trying to develop some sort of forestry plan, management
Right.
plan, carbon management. I mean, one of the things they're promoting is if a lot of those trees could be turned into something like building material or furniture material or whatever, then that carbon stays stored for a very long time. You know, as you know, there's all kinds of other mitigating factors, like it takes equipment to cut it up and
yeah,
harvest it and pull it all out. But it doesn't all need to be chipped or burned or something like that. Just sometimes stacking it and letting it decay slowly if that's the choice. But in many cases, so when we were choosing a CR holder for our properties, one of the potential CR holders was the New England Forest Foundation, but
Yeah.
they're a much more aggressive land manager than say Wildlands or the trustees or whatever. But New England Forest Foundation just got a $30 million grant from the USDA to hopefully sustainably manage forests better and hopefully try to manage pollution, just or reduce CO2. It's complicated, and we're not gonna right the world with it, but we have the potential to be working with a forester, come up with some plans that could at least show that we have a good intent, and maybe find some folks that do want to harvest some of that wood and utilize it would be great.
Yeah, well, a lot of the trees that I see down, especially in the West End, are just dead trees. And they came down.
Well, there's a lot of, I think there's some that may be able to be salvaged, and then there's others that are just, whether we neaten some up or, as you say, we leave them, and that's nature,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I know critters like to go in them too.
But we had a forester do a program, so the next step is to take that to another level. I guess is my point.
Yes, I'm with you.
With all kinds of things, there's habitat, there's emergent growth, there's a whole number of things that we could start to think about and do. And those are the better things to do. The other thing is we have money from Toll Brothers, and that's supposed to be for the Scituate Brook. And that was kind of our point the other night when Penny and I met with the select board, is that, we have all these regulatory things that we have to do as a commission, which consume a good deal of our time. But we also have other projects that would be the right thing to do for a conservation commission, and how do we manage all of those? If our day and all, or a lot of our time is all consumed in permitting projects and regulatory sort of thing, how do we get at the other? Just some things to think about, and maybe.
Well, we spent $1,000 of the toll money on signs,
On what?
All right.
signs.
Well, there was
Because
There was an overage on the signs, so,
there's two buckets of Toll Brothers money, though.
right.
There's
So
money
we
for
spent out of one of the buckets today.
Right. for Scituate Brook. There was 1,000, I mean,
15.
30,000, there was 25 or 30,000 for Scituate Brook. And then there was another one that
30, I
was,
thought there was 15.
there should be 30 grand.
We were just looking at those yesterday, I thought,
Okay, well,
but anyways, yeah, we were looking at all the funds.
But-
Yeah,
but we have those monies to eventually think about how we address all that. But
mhm.
how do we, as a commission, with the members and the folks that we have, get to all those projects, or some of them, or make a little progress? So just some thoughts. But speaking of Toll Brothers, that is going to be probably closing out this year. And are we comfortable with all the things that they did for us, or supposed to do, or to complete their project? And a lot of it's stormwater. There's still all kinds of basins and whatnot, but it's winding down. But it also means that Amy, planning board, you still have a bunch of things to look at to be sure that they've done all the pieces that they're required to do.
Before they leave town.
Yeah. And then we just have some small other outstanding things. We still have a fence in the West End that we need to address, and we have some uncollected funds, and then we have a few enforcements that are up on the top of the list. And so it's the good thing is I think we've made some great progress in some of these pieces, and we're getting at them. The other part is that we got more to do. And I'll maybe try to summarize those a little bit and then get some thoughts from members as to a good way to try to approach some of them. And we also have a couple of folks that want to donate some land, and we got to circle back to them.
It's a big list.
So
Right.
if I take out all the time that Penny interrupted me, that only took about 7 minutes.
Frank?
Yeah, Frank, you have most of what's on my list. You went over my list actually, and I captured some of your more on the back of my list.
Okay, well, we can put that together and just get it out as some thoughts, and then I'd really would appreciate folks giving it a little bit of thought, and then.
And the donation is, I'm assuming you're thinking of Davis on Summer Street. Is there somebody else?
Well, there's also at Heritage Trail, there's some open space that came with that it wound up being on one person's piece of property rather than a common area. And that person would like to consider giving that land to the commission, and it abuts some of our property. So it's not a bad.
Can I throw one quick thing out there?
Yeah.
Sally Rossi Orman from Holly Hill would like to bring some kids out to Appleton Field to show them how to tap the Norway maples and make some syrup.
Yep.
Is everybody cool with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
It sounds does she run, just bring a group, Andy? Do you know, she just goes through the training and whatnot?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Good.
all. I think that's a great place to be too,
I
with
agree.
everything else going on. Thank you.
Yep. All right, I'll let her know.
Thanks. Okay.
Quite a few of these in order to quite a few of these, a lot of the reason why they're still on the list and they sound familiar is because they're on the slow train to nowhere. Like you just kind of don't get anywhere with them, you push them, then they don't really go. So it's either like make a call on, do you want to go to legal or not?
I think for a
And
couple
others
of-
are legit projects that like make some progress with, which would be wonderful projects if we ever get time to do, which it
Well,
looks
I
like
think-
maybe we are.
I think it's more important, not only that if we can find the time to do it, but do we have the support from, say, the select board to go back and say, hey, there's talk about, different things. They spent a little time talking with Corey, and just how do we find the resources to go after grants and do all of that? And if the select board and the town administrator will support that we can go back to town meeting and say, hey, is there some way that we can get a part-time person, or how do we staff that sort of thing? I don't know, just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of the enforcement orders and fines and stuff that I would love to try to put a little bit more time into if we can do it.
Well, the year's just a sliding by on a couple of them.
Right.
Going nowhere.
Well, I think that's some people's hope,
Oh, I know, I'm sure it is.
Oh, yeah. Fall off the face of the globe. Yeah.
But I think we need to go to our new town council and move on them. There's 3 I can think of right off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. Well, give that some thought. It's 7:30. I said we wouldn't do that any later than 7:30. I'm glad we got to Manchester and kind of waded through that one. And we'll circle back, and I'm going to try to put something together maybe where we can all get together and chat a
That
little
would be
more
good.
informally.
That would be good.
All right.
Yeah, great.
All right. Anything else, Penny?
No, I'm all set.
Anybody else?
Nope.
I was going to request that Andy go over to the piano and play us out tonight.
Oh, Andy, the piano.
There are people here who can play it, but I'm not one of them.
There's a very nice looking piano behind. Yeah.
So
Wow.
Doug, Jake's saying good night.
Hey, Jake.
everyone.
Good night, Jake.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, I'm
Right.
sorry.
Nice to see you, Jennifer.
I make a
All right.
motion.
Do we,
to
I need a
adjourn.
motion. Penny's
Oh.
not gonna miss that.
Second,
That was Jake that made the motion and
Yeah,
Jen seconded. All in favor, Penny,
yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Brendan,
Yes.
Jen, Doug,
yes.
Yes.
Richard,
Yep.
Frank,
Night.
yes.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night,
Night.
everyone.
Yeah.